Dad, I'm done with today's cleaning. I called out to my father at the register from the storefront. Good job. Be careful on your way. I'm off. With my backpack on, I waved to my dad. This was my morning routine when I was little. The dazzling morning sun and my father's smile. I can still remember it vividly. My name is Kevin Smith. My father ran a stationery store. My job was to clean the storefront every morning, and I think it started when I was in third grade. This routine continued until I became a high school student. Now, I am 62 years old. I've aged quite a bit. Both my parents have passed away, and my kids are grown and independent. Now I live with my wife. I've always been a quiet type, but I've been told I'd become even more gentle and reserved with age. Life with you is so peaceful. My wife once said while we were having coffee together. However, there was one man I could never get along with. Whenever I was with him, I felt uneasy. His name was John. We met in elementary school. John was always a prominent figure. He would brag about his father, who was an executive at a famous company. He wore expensive clothes and had a private tutor for his studies. He always boasted about how privileged he was. On the other hand, I was just an ordinary student who didn't stand out in class. I became aware of John in 5th grade during an open school day. Actually, it was from this time that John started to hold a grudge against me. The assignment was a typical one, to write about our future dreams. I didn't have any grand dreams. I just vaguely thought I would take over my father's store. So, I wrote about my daily routine in my essay. At home or the store, especially keep the entrance clean. If you always keep it ready to welcome good people and good luck, happiness will come to you. My father would say this almost like a mantra. That's how my morning cleaning routine started. Additionally, my father believed that stationery is a tool to accumulate knowledge and experience. As the son of a stationery store owner, he taught me diligently. In reality, it was just because the store was often empty and he had time. Thanks to this, I also did well in school. When I wrote about this fact in a way that adults would appreciate, my teacher praised me highly. It was the only time I ever received applause as someone who usually didn't stand out. However, John didn't like it. For someone who was always bragging about his father, it was unthinkable that my ordinary father would be praised. The next day, John's harassment began. For a stationery store owner's kid, you use shabby pencils. Your eraser is small and dirty. Your store must sell nothing but defective products. Hey, everyone, don't buy anything from Kevin's store. He constantly made fun of our store and sometimes even did things that seemed like sabotage. John's family was influential in the community. No one dared to defy him. I became even more invisible, spending my days quietly. This situation continued into middle school, but as the number of students increased and we were placed in different classes, John's bullying decreased, and I managed to find some peace. Later, I aimed to attend the local public high school. When I heard John was going to a prestigious private high school, I was genuinely relieved. But life is full of ups and downs. Soon after I started high school, my father's stationery store ran into financial trouble. A large shopping center opened about 15 minutes away by car. Its variety and prices were unbeatable for a small, family-run store. Despite my father's efforts for 2 more years, he eventually had to close the store. He worked various jobs until retirement and somehow managed to put me through college. 10 years after graduating from middle school, I attended a reunion. I looked forward to seeing old friends, but the first person to speak to me was John. Your store went under, huh? Too bad you couldn't take it over. He still held a grudge from nearly 15 years ago. I was annoyed and dismissed him casually. Yeah, it was unfortunate. Not everyone can have as grand a life as you. I meant it sarcastically, but John didn't catch on. I'm having a tough time too. I joined my dad's company, but people say I'm only there because of him. But I just landed a big contract and shut them up. He was still a talkative braggart. His father was now a senior executive at a chemical company. Eventually, I'll have to take over. It's a lot of pressure. I sighed quietly. Good luck with that. You too. But I guess all you can manage is cleaning the store. With that, John laughed loudly and walked away. Despite the reunion, I felt gloomy. I took a sip of beer and rejoined my friends. 40 years passed. I never saw John again. Yet, my memories of him remained vivid. He left a strong impression. That's probably why. We were well past our 60th year, yet after decades apart, we immediately recognized each other. One afternoon, I was meticulously cleaning the floor of a building entrance. It had been raining since morning, and the floor was covered in water droplets. By the afternoon, the rain intensified, accompanied by thunder. Suddenly, two men rushed into the entrance. "Couldn't you at least get a taxi?" An elderly man shouted at a man in his 40s. He then shook his soaking wet umbrella, spraying water everywhere. "Hey, you! Clean this up," the older man ordered me. As soon as our eyes met, we both stopped in our tracks. "You? Kevin?" "John." The man I could never forget stood in front of me. He approached me with a smirk. He looked me up and down in my work uniform. "So, you became a janitor? Makes sense, cleaning is about all you're good for." He repeatedly tapped the tip of his umbrella on the floor, spreading more water around. "But still, a janitor at this age. Do you have any savings? What will you do when you're old?" He looked gleeful, like he'd found a new toy. "No rest for the poor. You have to keep working as long as you can move, right?" John chuckled nastily. Just then, the man behind him noticed my face and gasped. "John! That man is..." The man looked pale. But John didn't notice. "Huh? This guy? He's my classmate from way back. He used to use shabby pencils despite his family owning a stationery store. His store went under because they had no customers." "No, that's not it." The man's face was covered in cold sweat. I smiled politely at the man. "Let's meet again." Then I wiped the floor John had wet and walked away. "Well, good luck to you. I have an important business meeting now, unlike you." As I glanced back, I saw John laughing, while his subordinate had a serious expression on his face. 10 minutes later, I changed into a suit and entered the large conference room on the upper floor of the building. Guided by my secretary, Hannah, I took my seat, surrounded by employees who greeted me. I've always said I don't like formalities. "Relax." They smiled and their expressions softened. "Let's get started." At my signal, an employee at the door moved. He soon brought in our business meeting counterparts. "Thank you for your time today. My name is Michael, and this is our manager, John." It was the man who turned pale upon seeing my face at the entrance earlier. Michael glanced around at the employees, and when he spotted me, he straightened his back again. "I deeply apologize for earlier." John finally realized my presence. "Huh? Wait, Kevin? John. This is Executive Vice President Smith." Michael whispered urgently to John. "What? EVP? Kevin?" "Yes, Executive Vice President Smith." Michael's voice rose. I spoke deliberately and slowly. "Nice to see you again." "No way. You're really Kevin?" John's reaction caused a stir among my employees. "Yes, he's my elementary school classmate," I told them, calming the room. With that, John finally understood exactly who I was. You're a janitor?" That was more of a good luck ritual. I always do it before a new deal, hoping for a good connection. "I hope today's meeting doesn't turn out to be a bad one." John's face turned pale. "Well, what now?" I pondered silently. Unable to take over my father's store, I joined a major stationery manufacturer after college. It's a company everyone would recognize by name. My childhood knowledge of stationery must have helped me get in. Initially, I was assigned to the planning department, working on various collaborations aimed at children. However, children's products lost their appeal quickly and didn't do well. Eventually, I shifted my focus to high-end and high-quality stationery for adults, aiming to create products that would be status symbols like old-fashioned fountain pens. The stationery is luxurious yet user-friendly. I had confidence in that plan. But I was also anxious, so the day before my presentation, I cleaned my desk and the shared areas of the planning department before heading home. The presentation was well received, and the product became a smash hit after its release. Stationery is a tool to accumulate knowledge and experience. If you always keep it ready to welcome good people and good luck, happiness will come to you. My father's words echoed in my mind. This success led to my promotion. Continuing the habit of cleaning the office before presentations or important events earned me a reputation for meticulousness. And I was eventually noticed by the quality control department head. Ensuring the quality of products and their production environment suited me well. By the time I turned 60, I had risen to executive vice president in charge of quality control. Since then, whenever an important meeting or negotiation was coming up, I would discreetly change into work clothes and clean the entrance. At first, people found it odd that an EVP would do such a thing, but now it's a tradition no one questions. Today's meeting was about a new gel ink for pens developed by a major chemical company, which I was looking forward to. But I was surprised when I saw the company's name. John's Company. And John himself was coming to the meeting. You tricked me? I never said my job was as a janitor. Anyone would be fooled seeing you dressed like that. This company employs a fraud as an EVP? John. That's enough. John was reprimanded by his subordinate, and even he fell silent. I sighed dramatically. Being disrespectful, changing your attitude based on someone's status, and engaging in lowly behavior behind the scenes. Having someone like that as a manager makes me worry about what your company might do when we're not looking. I stood up. Please wait. Our products are highly rated for their quality. At least hear us out. I looked directly at John, my voice firm. Then please review your internal management and come back. I am very interested in your products. With that, I left the conference room. As Hannah followed me, she peered at my face. What happened today? You seem harsher than usual. Even Hannah had noticed my displeasure. Wounds from childhood are surprisingly deep. I looked up at the ceiling as we walked down the hallway. I don't know what discussions took place at John's company afterward. I only heard that John was demoted and stripped of his title. Sometime later, while I was working in my office as usual, the intercom rang. Yes? There's someone here without an appointment requesting to see you. Who is it? He says his name is John, the receptionist informed me. I thought for a few seconds and then replied, tell him to wait at the entrance. I changed into my work clothes and headed downstairs as usual. John was sitting hunched over on a lobby chair. He rushed toward me as soon as he saw me. Kevin. Please. You have to make the deal with us. If you don't, I'll get fired. Irritated by his lack of an apology, I motioned for him to follow me. Come with me. I led him to the janitor's room and handed him a new uniform and a mop. First, clean the floor you dirted. But it's already clean. That's not the point. It's about the principle. Reluctantly, he changed clothes and headed back to the entrance. Just try cleaning the floor from one end to the other without thinking about anything else. Though he looked annoyed, he started mopping silently. I joined him in cleaning. After a while, John began to talk about the past. Your dad was a good man. Mine was strict. John was expected to excel in everything, grades, sports and writing. When you got praised for that essay, not just you but your dad too, my dad hated it. Before, he was compared to many classmates, but then it became don't lose to Kevin. John's stress turned into harassment towards me. When we went to different high schools, I was relieved. I was surprised to learn that John felt the same way I did. He went to college, aiming to be a researcher. But his arrogant personality led to him being disliked by professors and failing to get into graduate school. The job search he started abruptly was haphazard, and he struggled to get hired. Eventually, with his parents' help, he got a job at his current company. However, it seems he was viewed with disdain for getting in through connections. Even after my father was gone, I sometimes heard his voice. I was always being pushed by something. He had been obsessed with climbing the corporate ladder to surpass his father. But he never got past being a manager. He knew he was not well liked in the company. When I saw you in the center of the conference room, something snapped inside me. I lost all motivation. But I also stopped hearing my father's voice. John seemed somewhat relieved. By the time we finished talking, we had cleaned the floor twice over. Looking at the now gleaming floor, John smiled with satisfaction. Working out isn't so bad once in a while. We have a janitor position open if you're interested. You're joking, right? After more than 50 years. I saw John's genuine smile for the first time. John changed back into his suit and said, "I'm leaving for today," before walking away. Back in my office, I spoke to Hannah. Call the company about the gel ink deal. Tell them Kevin will reconsider. Understood. Hannah smiled softly. Looks like you're back to your usual self, Mr. Smith. From then on, John started coming to clean our entrance about once a month. You should be doing this at your own company. I can't. The employees who resent me would just make the floor dirtier out of spite. John said with a surprisingly fresh look on his face. We are still 62. We've got a lot ahead of us. He added, a line I never expected to hear from him. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. We laughed together, gripping our mops tighter.